How we doing, boys and girls? Manthieus here. Welcome back to another video. So it's the day after the night before, and we've finally now found out a few things about the new expansion. We had the BlizzCon opening ceremony. We had the What's Next panel. There is still the deep dive coming later today, but you'll have to wait till tomorrow for my reactions on what we get through that. This is just my sort of first thoughts on what we've seen so far, and a bit of an overview in case you've missed it. I have already posted on the channel my live reactions to both the opening ceremony and the What's Next panel. We streamed this both on YouTube and on Twitch, and we had a blast. It was a good, fun evening. I think everybody enjoyed themselves. Chris Metzen, he pulled it out the bag. He always does. But let's talk about what we've got coming in the new expansion, what we know, what we maybe don't know, and what I'm excited for. So to start off with, they dropped the bombshell that they are having an overarching story, which they're calling it the World Soul Saga. This is going to be a story that's going to encompass 3 expansions, and this was one of the big first initial announcements that they gave to us, that we are going to have three expansions. They're going to aim to bring these to us quicker. To quote the man himself, they want this story to play out over the next few years. I might insert a quick clip of this from the stream. They want this to play out over the next few years, and they have developed ways to deliver this adventure to you a little faster than you are used to.
Having said that, we are working on multiple ways to deliver this adventure to you a little faster than you're used to.
Yearly expansions!
We're not going to get into it at this BlizzCon, forgive me. But keep your ears peeled. I assure you, we are moving with purpose.
He also uses the phrase expansion sets, which is a slightly different and maybe very deliberate use of terminology. Rather than it being like a full expansion, these are expansion sets. This is something that we've seen sort of historically in things like Hearthstone, where they sort of, they just pump them out a bit faster. This has already got us to start sort of, the rumor mill starting to circulate here that are these going to end up being yearly expansions as opposed to 2-year expansions? And we'll talk about some of the implications of that a little bit later on. We're going to get some of the new typical stuff, obviously. We're going to get some of the new typical stuff. We're going to get some new dungeons. We're going to get a new raid. We're going to get some slight tweaks to the talents and this sort of stuff. This is all sort of things that we expect. It is interesting to me, though, that they've actually gone out there and they've named these 3 expansions already. So we're already going to kind of see how the story is going to progress. The first one is the War Within. This is one you probably may have seen some footage on already. This is going to launch. They did give us a launch date, which is very bold of them, but it gives us the ability to sort of start thinking about what the next thing could be for Dragonflight. The War Within is going to launch fall of 2024. Now, this theoretically does leave me to believe, because of course fall sort of encompasses the end of September, October, November. They're sort of the fall months historically. This could mean that we might still have 12 months worth of Dragonflight. So it kind of does beg the question, with 10.2 coming out in a couple of days' time, what are they going to do to keep us busy? Maybe I need to do a little bit more digging, and hopefully the deep dive panel later today might help shed some light on this. They were talking very heavily and focusing very strongly on what's new. I mean, that was the name of the panel after all. They announced the expansion, and then they talk about what's next within it. They didn't give much stage time to Dragonflight in any way, shape, or form. That will, these questions will get answered. Few new zones, a few new dungeons, a new 8-boss raid, which could be fun, and some hero talents. They're sort of giving you some sort of there's going to be some sort of way for you to sort of customize your build a little bit. It's always been one of the things in World of Warcraft. You go into a new expansion, you hit a new level cap, which is 80, by the way. The level cap is increasing to 80. You go in and you hit a new level cap, and you kind of want a new juicy button to press. You know, this is always the thing. This was a problem for them for a while because they had to then figure out how to take some buttons away from you after a while. But this is going to allow you to swap and change between some mini talents at some point as well. Let's dive into some of the cool stuff though. Some of the stuff that really stood out to me. Some of the stuff that I'm really passionate for. I'm really excited for. There's a new outdoor world experience that they're calling Delves. This appears to be a 1 to 5 player experience, but you are always accompanied by an NPC. Now, it doesn't take a genius to think, well, this is clearly Digs 2.0. If you've played patch 10.1 and you'd been in the Zaralet Cavern, you had probably done some digs with the Niffen, which was a very, very small, short, little adventure that you went on. It was entirely solo, but you were accompanied by an NPC at the time. It looks like Delves could be an expansion on this, maybe taking it a little bit bigger, a little bit broader, a little bit more advanced. They did state that they want you to go diving in and they want you exploring, and by the time you get to the end of your exploration, you should find a chest that's got some goodies in. It's always nice to be rewarded, but it's cool that you're going to be able to bring a few friends with you along, if you have any, a few friends with you to come and complete this, but either way, you can entirely do it solo as well. It'll be fun to see what that actually accumulates to when we get our hands on some of this. A big one, a big goblin one, a big collector one for me, considering the fact that I'm a bit of an ATT fan. There's a new system being called Warbands. Warbands is going to basically be what they're going to encapsulate your accountness to be. This is more of an account-wide feature. They're expanding on the account-wide nature of the game. They've already said that the new reputations, or while they're still continuing to call them renown at this point, the new renown paths in the new expansion are going to be account-wide. You build progress on one of your characters, you'll have that same progress on your other characters. Warbands are also going to bring in things like account-wide currencies. This is going to be very useful. The amount of currencies we end up collecting in World of Warcraft does start to get a little bit ridiculous at times, and often you will have a surplus of currency on one of your characters, and you are desperate for it on another character, and it's always a point of contention for players about, well, you know, when are we going to be allowed to share this big pile of currency that is not doing anything with the characters that I could actually really use it for. They did say there might be a lossy conversion. The phrase lossy conversion usually means that if you farm it all up on one character, even though it's stored in a big pot, if it's stored in a big pot in an account-wide warband system, that if you use it then on another character, there might be a Blizzard tax on using it on that other character, but it should at least be available for you. Don't know how this is going to be implemented, but it sounds fun to me. This is also going to extend to your bank. There's going to be a Warband Bank. This is going to be for your regular stuff. Soulbound is still going to be a thing. Soulbound items will still be yours, but anything else that you pick up on your travels, you will be able to put into your Warband Bank. Please, 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 Blizzard, if this is going to be an account-wide storage area, make it account-wide size. I would really hate to see like one little window turn up. I still famously bring up the fact that Ian Hazacostas was on record for saying that the reagent bag was going to be big. It was the same size as every other bag. It was just one additional one. It wasn't really that chunky in the first place. There is also going to be a Warband reagents bank to go along with this. So for crafters out there, for people who want to just, you know, maybe they have a character that's sat at the auction house that probably does a lot of their material purchasing, you should be able to put all of those materials in your Warband bank, and then your crafters can craft with them till their heart's content. This is wonderful. This makes the inventory and the management of all of your reagents that you go into crafting, fingers crossed, much smoother, much smoother. I'm excited to see that they're going at least in that direction for sure. And the big one for a lot of people, the big one is that they are removing some of the restrictions for your transmog collecting. How frustrating is it when you run into a dungeon on your mage and you find a rare piece of plate drop from a boss, and then you run in on your warrior to try and get that rare piece of plate, and a piece of cloth drops, a rare cloth item drops. You've had the items drop for you, but you are not able to utilize them because you just happen to be on the wrong class at the wrong time. They're lifting that restriction. This is going to be a really nice quality of life for farmers and for people that are trying to just collect all of those transmog appearances. It probably means that druid speed sets and sort of zoom characters are going to be very popular because you'll be able to farm everything on those characters. Your limitation then will only be sort of like raid lockouts, and you can circumvent that by just having more characters. So that could be quite cool. I look forward to seeing and being able to test and play with all of that. But the question becomes very quickly, well, this all sounds great, but at what cost? There was a you can pre-purchase the expansion. You may have noticed that I'm currently sat here chilling on the new mount. This is the new mount you get for for purchase of at least the heroic edition. There's three versions of the expansion, because of course there is. There is the base version of the expansion, which they are currently selling for $50. I'm going to quote these in dollars. Please convert them to your local currencies, either euros or pounds or ruples or whatever the hell it is. The $50 base is going to give you the expansion. It's going to give you what they consider an enhanced level boost, a level 70 level boost. I have not used this yet to see exactly what it is. Make sure you tune into the streams over the next few days. I'm going to use this level 70 boost for testing purposes. A level 70 boost, which is considered to be raid ready for patch 10.2. I do not know exactly what they are determining as raid ready, but I would assume that this probably means you can get a level 70 character boost with at least good enough gear to start heading into the next raid. Now, interestingly for me, raid ready should theoretically mean 447 gear. I'm looking at that as being considered raid ready, mostly because raid 447 gear is what drops in LFR going into patch 10.2. So it's got to at least be 447 gear, I would imagine. We have access to this enhanced level character boost before 10.2 even comes out, though. So I'm hoping that they've backed it up here, but it's an enhanced boost. They've used the word enhanced to try and emphasize it's something better than just a regular character boost. We'll have to find out. And of course, the base version for $50 is going to get you 500 bonus traders tender to go and spend. Any of you that looked at the the trading post this month and were like, there's a lot of cool stuff in here this month. Well, here's your way to get yourself some extra traders tender if you are so inclined to pre-purchase this expansion ahead of time. There's a heroic version, which is going to give you absolutely everything that the base version is going to get. It's going to give you this mount that I'm currently on now. This is something they're calling a dynamic mount. This means it has the dragon riding facility within the Dragon Isles, and it also will have that other places as well. I should point out at this moment that dragon riding is being kind of broadly renamed to dynamic flying. The emphasis is being taken away from the dragons, but we're still going to have the same flying mechanics in the new expansion by the looks of things. And they're going to sort of build in this dynamic flying to a whole array of your current existing mounts, which is cool. There was a point in the trailer where you saw the Ashes of Alar doing its swooping as if it was dragon riding, which was kind of cool to see. In the $70 heroic version of the game, you're also going to get a transmog set, which I might see if I can throw some footage up on screen for. I haven't tested out the transmog set myself personally yet. And there's an additional 250 traders tenders on top. Now let's get to the big one then, the $90 epic version of the game. This is where it starts to get a little bit juicy, and there's a little bit of controversy here that I also want to talk about. The $90 pre-purchased epic edition of the game is going to give you everything that the previous ones provide you with, of course, but it is also going to give you a pet and a toy, pretty standard stuff. It's going to give you that 30 days of game time for your account, an additional on top 250 extra tendies. So if you purchase the epic one, you basically get 1,000. There's 1,000 possible traders tender available by pre-purchasing. you are going to get beta access. They are going to guarantee you beta access if you purchase the Epic one. Now, we've seen this sort of tactic used before to give you guys access to the beta. I suspect with a fall launch, it is likely that we will start to see an alpha. I want to say January, February time. Then I would suspect there'd be a bit of a downturn before they do probably a very structured, I would imagine, a structured 8-week sort of beta period. I would suspect in the summer next year would be my guess for when the beta launches. But you can buy yourself access to the beta if you pre-purchase the Epic Edition for $90. Now, onto the contentious one. If you pre-purchase the Epic version, if you pay a full $40 more than the base version of the expansion, you are going to get access to play the game 3 days early. I don't like this, Blizzard. I don't like this. This is not like, this is a tactic that has been used with other games from other companies. And you can somewhat justify it if it's a predominantly single-player game. Maybe it's a single-player game that's got some multiplayer element attached to it. But that's not what World of Warcraft is. World of Warcraft is an MMO. Expansion launch day and the days that follow that are better than Christmas. If you start charging people $40 for 3-day early access, I'm not a fan of this. I suspect the internet is probably on fire about this already. Not a fan of this because even though it is technically not mandatory, it's going to feel very mandatory. Let's say you're in any way, shape or form competitive, whether it be in any angle of the game, whether you just want to level your characters as fast as possible, whether you want to get yourself geared up and ready for the raid, whether you want to get yourself into Mythic Plus soon as the season launches, whether you're a gold maker, whether you enjoy playing with the professions. Everybody knows that those first few days of an expansion launch is massive. Charging to give people that 3-day head start is a bit slimy. I'm not a fan of that personally. It's the only, for me personally, it's the only negative vibe from the whole experience that we had with this. It's a bit of a shame. But let me know what you think about all of this. So I'll leave it there for now, boys and girls. This was just, my first initial thoughts and impressions and overview of what we've seen so far. We know the name of the expansion. We know roughly when it's coming out. We know some of the features and functionality. And so now, hopefully, in the next few days, weeks, months, we can start to see a little bit more about how it's going to develop. And I'm excited. I'm excited. There is the slight controversy, obviously, that if they push to yearly expansions and they are charging you $90 for an Epic edition, and it's going to be yearly instead of every 2 years, you add on your monthly subscription, all of a sudden World of Warcraft is starting to get very expensive, but maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail at some other point. Make sure you jump by the live streams over the next few days and weeks, because of course we're going to be going into 10.2, we're going to be playing through that, and of course we can have ourselves a good chat about everything that's going on. We are still streaming both here on YouTube and also on Twitch simultaneously. Who knows, we might broaden our horizons to other places if the appeal is there. But thank you all for watching, boys and girls. I hope you enjoyed. Give the video a like if you did. Leave me some comments down below what your thoughts are about the new expansion, what sort of excites you most. And we will be live later on today for the next panel, which is going to be the World of Warcraft deep dive. Make sure you've hit the subscribe button, and I'll give you my thoughts and impressions on that roughly similar time tomorrow. Thank you once again, boys and girls. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you next time. Peace.